Hey guys, it's David from MDBootstrap.com and welcome to another tutorial. This is the second part of our landing page tutorial. So if you've seen the previous one, we've built together that page. It's a landing page for the restaurant. And if you haven't seen it, check link down below in the description. You don't need to follow the previous one because we're gonna start with this source code already. I'm gonna show you how you can download it, but if you want to learn how to build it from scratch, then I highly encourage you to go through the previous part. So what has changed, what's gonna change in this second part of our tutorial? So the basic page is already there, all the components are here ready to use. But what's gonna change, we add some extra features, and those features gonna be an animation on load. So I'm gonna refresh the page now, and please have a look at these components, these elements over here, how they're gonna appear to our screen on load. So I'm refreshing right now, and as you can see, they are showing up, they are fading in this nice order from top, left, right, and then to the bottom. So we're gonna learn how to do that. What else we're gonna do is we're gonna add something which is called a smooth scroll. So if you're gonna click this one, you can see that I'm not jumping, right? The page is not jumping directly to this place. It's just nicely, smoothly scrolling down to this element on the page. What we else added, we're gonna learn how to use modals. So these are those small pop-up windows over here. So we add two modals here. One allows us to leave a review for our restaurant, and the other one allows us to book a table. So we also are gonna learn how to use inputs. And a very basic one is like a name, phone or email, but also some advanced one which allows us to select a date from a calendar. So like this one, so you can choose when you want to go to a restaurant, let's say July, and then OK, and define a date. So we'll say we're gonna go at 8 p.m. and here it is. So yeah, that's what we're gonna build. And without further ado, let's get started. So in order to start this one, if you watch the previous version of our tutorial, you can start from a previous one. You can start exactly in a place where we finished the part one of this tutorial. If you haven't done that, you can navigate to GitHub, to our repository. You're gonna find a link to this repository in description down below, and just go to this repository here and then clone it or download it via as a zip file. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna clone it right now. So I'm gonna open Git here, and I'm gonna type git clone and our repository address, which will clone this project for us. Now, another thing which we have to do, because we're gonna be using these premium components, we have to use MDB Pro for that. So in order to download MDB Pro, just log in to your account on mdbootstrap.com, navigate to your orders page, hit the download button next to MDB 5. It will download the newest version for you. And once you're there, what we're gonna do, we're gonna replace existing files. So I'm gonna unzip this one, and I'm gonna replace our JS and CSS file, which will update our package to a pro version. And once we are done with that, we can start coding. So I'm gonna open this current project using Visual Studio Code, and I'm gonna run it, and let's open it. And this is our project. As you can see, it doesn't have this animation on load. It's jumping like this. So it doesn't have a smooth scroll, and we don't have any modals here. So let's start with animations. Let's navigate to animation documentation. So let's go to mdbootstrap.com. Let's choose MDB5, so the icon on the right side. And let's search for animation. I'm gonna use this search tool here, animations here. Now within MDB, you can use dozens of different animations, so you can check all of them on this small rectangulars over here. So as you can see, there are plenty of them, so we can mix them. You can choose the one you like, the one you prefer. And now I'm gonna show you how easy it is to add animation like this to any element on the page. So we're gonna start with the basic example, which is this car. Here, in order to start the animation, we have to click on it and it will start the animation. So there are two options to use animation. One, the easier one, is to use data attributes like here, and the other one is to use JS to initialize it. The first one is much easier, and we're gonna use this one in our tutorial. So in order to use animation, let's have a look at this basic example. So what we need are these attributes. So data toggle set to animation, data reset. This tells us, this defines whether animation can be run only once or multiple times. Since it's true, we can run this animation multiple times. So once animation is over, you can reset it. It will reset it automatically and you can re-trigger it again. Finally, we define which animation we want to use, and you've seen them before, so you can just change it to some other animation. Okay, let's add this animation to our heading. So I'm gonna copy these three attributes over here, and let's get back to code. And let's search for our heading, this one, and let's add these attributes over here, and let's see how it looks now. So as you can see, every time we click on our heading, it will run the animation. Now there are multiple options how you can launch your animation. So the one which we've seen so far is on click, but there are others. So we can trigger it on hover. The next one, on scroll, is a little bit tricky because it already scrolled when I went down to this place. So I'm gonna go up, I'm gonna refresh the page to show you the result. And now if I'm gonna scroll, have a look at this car over here, as it start animation when I start scrolling. Now here you can see that we can define whether we want to repeat this animation on each scroll, like here. So every time I'm scrolling, it's animating our car, or if we want to do it just once, like in this example. We're gonna use some variation of on scroll animation in our project. So let's add this data start on scroll to our heading. Okay, so it's working now. Let's change this animation to something like fade in. Okay, and now we want to run our animation on load the page. So we're gonna do some small trick over here. We're gonna add new attribute, which is data show on load, and we're gonna set it to false. And we're also gonna get rid of this data reset. This small workaround allows us to trigger this animation on load. So we don't need to scroll, right? So otherwise our page would load entirely and this heading would be missing and it will be waiting until we start scrolling. And now, thanks to using this attribute, we can animate this element immediately after page is being loaded. Now finally, we want to animate these elements over here in certain order with some delay. We want to achieve effect like this, right? So we have this like fading in elements. So we're gonna use another attribute for this one, which is called data delay. So I'm gonna add now animation to another heading and these two buttons. I'm just gonna copy paste them from the previous example. So now they all appear all together, and we're gonna add some delays to following elements. So I'm gonna add some delay to our heading 4 by adding data delay attribute and setting it to 100 milliseconds. And let's add this one to our buttons as well. And let's set it to 200 and 300, which will give us this nice fading effect. Now, obviously, we could add this animation to more elements like this. We could add this animation on scroll, so we could make this effect that once we are scrolling down, these elements will just appear. And I highly encourage you to play with this animation and with this template and try to achieve some nice effects. For example, here we could just do like from left to right, or from right to left, or top to the bottom. So just take some time and play with it. What I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna add this animation to the entire main component, so it will just animate the rest of the page. And I'm gonna leave it to you to play with. Now let's move to the next step, which is booking modal. So as I said before, we're gonna use modal. So let's go to modal documentation. Modals are these small windows like this one, which allows us to show some extra content to our user. So let's copy the basic element here and paste it into our code. This will add this button over here. So we have a button code over here, and the modal. Modal obviously isn't visible at the very beginning, and we have to click this button to trigger our modal. I'm gonna leave this button for a second here, because now we're gonna fill this modal with content and inputs. And once it's done, I'm gonna get rid of this modal, and I'm gonna attach the same functionality to open modal to our button here, book a table. Let's navigate to forms documentation, and let's choose one of the examples as our starting point. So I'm gonna use, let's say, this one, contact form. So we want to have some place for a name, email address, some message if we have some extra requests to the restaurant, and we're gonna add some more inputs like the phone number, date, and a time picker. So let's copy this example and let's paste it into our modal body. Okay, let's have a look. Yeah, let's adjust it. So what we're gonna do, first of all, we want to change ID of this one. So I want this one and this one to called reservation modal. Okay, now let's change the title. Let's call it a book a table. Let's get rid of this checkboxes. We don't need this. Right. And let's change the submit to something like book a table. Okay, now we want another input over here. So let's go to the docs. Let's go to inputs. And let's search for phone number. So here we have a phone number example. I'm gonna copy this one. And let's add it after name. Let's add some comments here, phone input. Now let's go to date picker. And let's copy this example. Paste it below the email. Add some comment. And the same with time picker. And let's see how it works now. As you can see, we are missing some margins. We're gonna add them in a second, but our time picker seems to be working. Let's have a look at the date picker. 8 p.m. 30. Okay, so let's add missing margins. So we're gonna add this MB4, which stands for margin bottom 4, obviously. Okay, let's have a look now. Yeah, now it looks good. Now, before we move on, I encourage you to check our docs, because you can customize your time and date picker in many different ways. So you can have a time picker which is 24-hour format, like this one, or you can have many different options, right? So in regards to front-end part, so how does it look like? So you can have this time picker in 24 hours format, or the previous one, but also in the way they return the date format. So you can have a string, so you can have a date, and so on and so on. So just take some time and see how it looks. As you're gonna find many different customization options, like setting max time, minimum time, maximum hour, and so on and so on. And obviously the same applies to a date picker. So you can have like an inline version, which is smaller, more compact, and you can define formats as you wish. Obviously you can internationalize them to translate to different languages, and so on and so on. So you can use your own month names. So play with it and see what you like the most. Okay, so finally the last thing we have to do is to get rid of this button over here and launch this model on this button click. So let's do this now. As you can see, in order to trigger model, we just need to use these attributes like data toggle and data target. So I'm gonna just cut them. I'm gonna remove this button. I'm gonna remove this comment as well. And let's go to our button down below. And let's add this to our button over here. So now it's triggering our model. Okay, so we're gonna also remove the save changes here, as we don't need this one. So let's just go to our model, and I think we're gonna be done with this one. So let's get rid of that one. Yeah, and now let's move to the next one. So we want to add another model over here, which gonna use rating components. So we're gonna let our customers to leave a review for us, so they can just rate us, and they're gonna be able to leave us a review. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna add a new model here. So I'm gonna copy basic example, I'm gonna paste it over here, or let's add comment here so we know this is a reservation model, as we're gonna have more of them. Reservation. And let's add another one, which is gonna be rating or review. Let's go to rating model, and let's change the ID. Rating model. Okay, and now let's get back to our ratings. So let's copy this example. Let's paste it over here. Okay, let's check it now. Rating is here. We're gonna use flex to center it. Okay, now it's centered. Let's change model title to something like leave us review. Okay, and let's add also some text area so our customers could leave some extra comment, not only the rating. So let's get back to forms, input fields, then text area. Let's copy this one and let's paste it over here down below. And let's remove the save changes and let's change the save changes to submit. Okay, now finally we want to add new button over here. So next to book table, we're gonna have new button. I'm gonna copy paste this one and say leave a review and change it to rate model rating. Yeah, and now everything works like a charm. We can add some margins here to give it a better look. So let's add just some margin, let's say 4. Yeah, we could play with it for a little bit longer, but I'm gonna leave it up to you. How do you want to do it? We could obviously add some paragraph over here saying that we really appreciate all the feedbacks and so on and so on. But now let's move to the last element. Oh, we need to get rid of this button as well. So let's get rid of it. And now finally, let's move to the final one, which is a smooth scroll. So let's move to a smooth scroll. As I told you before, smooth scroll is this nice effect which allows us to scroll to this section in a smooth way. So it's very, very simple. It's very, very easy. What we have to do, we have to define location, final location using href attribute and add some data smooth scroll attribute to our link. So since we already have these links used over here, what we have to do is we just need to add this data attribute to our navbar links. So let's get there. Let's find our links. Here it is. So let's use it here, here, and here. And now it's working perfectly fine. And then again, as always, I encourage you to play with the docs, as you can have many different options. You can see like we can define, for example, offset here. So instead of going to the top, we can have this offset bigger over here, right? So like this one. So it's not going here, it will give us some offset from the top. So just take your time and play with it. Okay guys, our page is ready. Thank you very much for watching. You can find a source code of this final project in the description down below. So if something doesn't work for you, just download it and compare with your code. I hope you enjoyed it. And this was the second part of the landing page. Let me just remind you that we have more. So we have other pages like portfolio, like blog, and we have plenty of admin dashboard tutorials when we're gonna teach you how to build a real application dashboard and connect it to the external data sources and so on and so on. So I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to leave a like, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, as we're gonna create more and more content like this one. I also strongly encourage you to join our Facebook group. You're gonna find the link to the group in the description down below. So thank you for watching and see you in the next video.